The taps ran dry yesterday. Has this ever happened to you? Stay with me and I'm going to show you how never to have this problem ever again. Backstory on how we ran out of water yesterday. The water department was doing a new tie-in on the main line out at the main road. They had given us notification that the water was going to be shut off. They said for about 2 hours. It lasted about 4 to 6 hours. They had a little bit of a problem with it. But we did run out of water yesterday. The taps weren't working, but we were prepared for it. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to be prepared for any kind of water shortage, anything like that. And we also had a boil advisory. So we had to boil water. If you're going to use it for drinking, you had to boil it, do a rolling boil for the next 24 hours. So at 5 o'clock tonight is when the boil advisory is going to be lifted. But stick with me and I'm going to show you how to be prepared with your water situation. Hey guys, water is the most important thing that you're going to need starting out on your prepping journey. You got water, food, and shelter. Water, you can go 3 days without water is what the experts say. I really personally would not want to go without water for 3 days. But a lot of your people say, you need a minimum of 1 gallon per person per day, which I think that's kind of BS. 1 gallon, I drink over 1 gallon of water a day just working and stuff like that. If you're in a disaster situation, you're probably going to be out sweating, exerting yourself, and you're going to need a lot more than 1 gallon per day. Mine that I use 3 gallons per day per person is the number that I use for it. That 3 gallons is for cooking, drinking, and sanitation as far as washing yourself off, cleaning dirty dishes, stuff like that. So I budgeted in 3 gallons per person per day. And it sounds like a lot, but essentially for a 30-day water supply, you're looking at 2 55-gallon drums, and that gives you a little bit to spare. So that kind of gives you an idea of that. Also, with our animals we've got here, I figured it last summer was pretty hot, and I was looking at how much water we were using per day, and it came out to somewhere around 50 gallons per day for the animals, just to stay up to where the sheep and the cows and everybody had enough to drink. Just starting out on water storage, it really kind of depends on how long you're planning on not having water available from the municipal source. The situation we were in, we didn't have water for about 4 to 6 hours, something like that, and then had a boil advisory for 24 hours after that. Not a big problem. We've got plenty of bottled water to get us through. We used the bottled water last night and this morning for brushing our teeth. I drink a lot of water, so I was drinking bottled water as opposed to getting it out of the refrigerator dispenser. But it was fine. So just starting out, if you're only planning for a day or two of being out without water, you could get by with bottled water. Sam's has got bottled water cheap. Go buy several cases of bottled water. Have them stored out. Keep them off concrete. You don't want to set them directly on the concrete. It's just not a good practice. Get them up off the ground, off the concrete a little bit. Keep it in a cool, dry place is the best thing. But if you're, like I said, if you're just doing it for, a couple days, you're going to be perfectly fine with bottled water. That's not a big problem. The next step, if you're planning for more than just a couple days without having water, what you need to really step up to after that next step from the bottled water is the water bricks or the aqua trainers. Some of the pros on the aqua trainers and the water bricks, they're convenient. Most of them hold like 3.5 or 5 gallons apiece. Those are easy to carry around, easy to move. I know the aqua bricks stack on top of each other, so you can stack them super high. They don't take up a whole lot of room there, and they're easy to transport. You can fill those up, stick them in your basement, stick them in a closet, and you're good to go with quite a bit of water supply that way. Stay with me. The next step, we're going to just keep building and building on bigger storage and longer term solutions for your water. One of your next solutions about storing water after we've stepped up from water bricks and aqua trainers, 55-gallon drums. These are food grade 55-gallon drums. I know they're a little dirty. This one's been sitting outside. This one is actually an open top drum. I don't recommend getting the open top drums just because they have a tendency to leak and they're kind of a pain in the butt. I like the drums that are closed top with 2 bung holes. I've got several of those. Most of the time we keep those stored in the garage or store them in the basement. The pros with it, the bigger the containers you get, the cheaper per gallon storage that you're going to have. So if you're going to store, if you say, hey, I want 55 gallons of water storage, it's going to be cheaper to buy one 55-gallon drum as it is to buy your aqua trainers or your water bricks per gallon. And the bigger you get, the cheaper it's going to be per gallon. But we keep like some 55-gallon drums in the garage and in the basement. They're the ones with the bung holes in the top. Fill those things, put them where you want them, because they're going to be 400-ish pounds when they're full, and they're kind of a pain in the butt to move, honestly. But put them where you want them, bring the garden hose in, fill those up with municipal water, fill them up. If you want to, you can throw a little bit of bleach in there. I don't do it because the municipal water is already treated and fine. Fill it up, screw the bung hole tops on, and let it be. And another good thing with the 55-gallon drums, if you line several of them up, you can take a sheet of plywood and put on top. You've got storage right there. You can put other stuff on top of those, or you can stack your 55-gallon drums on top of each other. I've done it too high without any kind of problem. And now for my personal favorite water storage solution is right behind me is the IBC totes. These are all food grade IBC totes. You want to make sure any of your water containers are food grade approved. You can see a lot of places on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. They're selling IBC totes that have had Roundup or some other kind of crappy chemical in them. And people are like, oh, it's fine. You can just clean these and they'll be fine. That's not the case. These plastics will absorb some of those chemicals, and you can never rinse 100% of those out. So just watch that. Make sure they're food grade. These came from the Goo Goo factory in Nashville where they make the Goo Goo clusters, and these had they had corn syrup in them. Corn syrup's kind of a pain to wash out, but you can get it out, and it's all food grade. And honestly, if there's a little bit of corn syrup left in those, it's not that big a deal. It's not going to kill anybody. But these are the IBC totes. The IBC totes range in size from 275 gallons to 330 gallons. These are 330 gallon on here. I've got 6 of these daisy chained together with all my plumbing in there. And this, if you can see, it feeds off the front half of the shop and fills all those up the way it's plumbed in there. It'll fill the first container and then keep on going to fill all the containers. These are going to be cheaper per gallon than the 55-gallon drums. That's what I like, just because I want some bulk storage, especially with animals and stuff like that. If you're going through in the summertime, you can go through 50 gallons a day with your animals drinking. It just makes sense to get bigger containers to where you've got more storage. You can also go with commercial containers that you can buy at like Tractor Supply and Tank Depot and places like that. I've found those prices keep climbing up. The food grade IBC totes are also climbing up. We used to be able to get these for 50 bucks a pop. Now they're close to 100, 125 is what I've seen here lately. But like at Tank Depot, you can get anywhere from a 10-gallon container up to a 20,000-gallon tank. But a 20,000-gallon tank's huge. You got to find somewhere to put it. And I don't like having all my eggs in one basket, honestly. If you've got a 20,000-gallon tank and for some reason it gets a hole in it, especially down at the very bottom, you're kind of screwed. If I get a hole in one of these IBC totes, I can shut it off and I'm down one tote as opposed to being down my whole storage containers kaput. And we've got multiples. I've got it set up to where every building on the property, we can grab an IBC tote, set it up, hook the gutters to it. Everything's got gutters to where we can run and collect rainwater. And that's what we do with the IBC totes. Our 55-gallon drums, we go ahead and just fill those up. We don't have to worry about filtering the stuff that's in the 55-gallon drums because it was put in there clean and it's going to stay clean when we need it. With our IBC totes, we run, for the animals, we don't run it through any kind of filters. The animals are fine, but if it's for human consumption, we run it through filters before we use it. Your storm, once you've got your water container and your storage solution that you're gonna do, let's talk about where to store these containers. You saw my IBC totes outside. We leave those outside all the time. Typically, it does not get cold enough here to freeze those all the way solid. I have had one that froze all the way solid, but we don't stay that cold all the time. Usually we'll get a few cold days where it gets solid or pretty close to solid, and then a couple days later it's all thawed out. Right now we're darn near 65 degrees today. We'll get cool down tonight, but that's kind of typical sometimes with the winters we have in Kentucky. But you want to store these like your aqua trainers, your water bricks, and your 55-gallon drums. It's best practices to store those in a cool, dry place. If your containers are transparent or white or clear, if the sun's hitting them, yes, they will grow algae in those. It's not the worst thing in the world. You can filter the algae out. If you've got, I've seen a lot of guys will paint their IBC totes black or buy the plastic sleeves that go over those. I've not done that. I'm not too worried about the algae in it and contaminating it, because if we use that water, we run it through a filter system first that I've got down here at the shop. It's no big problem to use it. It runs off a 12-volt battery. But you want to keep those in a cool, dry place. Monitor those, make sure you don't have any leaks, anything like that, especially if you're going to store them in the house to where if water gets on something, it's going to cause a problem. In your basement, if it's on a concrete floor, it's not going to cause that much of an issue. Fill these containers that you're going to keep ready to drink. Fill those with potable water that's been treated. There's no reason to treat this water if it's coming out of, from the water department. There's no reason to treat that water because it's already been treated. That water will be fine from here to eternity. That's one of the things. People are like, oh, I rotate through my water because my water expires. That's the biggest crock I've heard of. Water will never expire. We're drinking the same water that our great-grandparents drank and that the Egyptians drank and everything else. It's the exact same water. There's not new water being made every day. It's the exact same water that just gets cycled through over and over. So when people say, hey, the water's expired, I've got to rotate through it, you don't have to. If it's clean going in, it's clean coming out. I had to move some 55-gallon drums that were in my basement. That water had been down there for 3 years. We were moving those. I took some of the water, tasted the water, looked at the water. It was just as clean and as pure as the day I put it in there, and I actually drank some, no problems whatsoever with it. I used that water, I pumped that water out, used it on the fruit trees and stuff like that, moved the barrels where I wanted them, filled them back up with water from the municipal source, and it was fine. But on that same token, water can become contaminated. Just like I was talking about with the algae and stuff like that. And I've said it, you can always filter the algae out, you can filter contaminants out, but if you take that sealed container with treated water, it's going to be good from here to eternity. Guys, get your water storage in check. There could be something. We just had a small little problem where we were out 4 to 6 hours with no water. I had plenty of water stored here. We made it through, cracked open some bottled water. Everything was good. Don't get caught short-handed, because the next time the water goes out, it might be some kind of big event. It might be a natural disaster. It might be some kind of terrorist plot. It might be the water plants are going to be down for a certain time because they can't get the chemicals to treat the water. You never know what's going to happen, and you never know how long it's going to go on. So just get your water squared away.